Thanks, Anna. That's why I got
Yeah.
you. Okay, now
Well,
we're recording. So I'm going to pull it back.
working through all of it.
Yes. Okay. So we're pulling this back up. I'm going to put this back on full screen so you all can see it better. All right. So as we see here, Judges 2:10. As I stated, our mission is
showing.
Christians.
It's not showing, Laurie.
What's not showing?
It's not showing. Are you showing something?
It's not showing. Huh. Okay, let me go back. Let me try this again. Back up here, share.
Okay, and now we see your screen.
Okay, do we have it? I'm going full.
Yes.
You see it? Fantastic. Yes. Okay, super. All right, so as I stated before, our mission is to educate Christians about our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and defend the state of Israel against the rise of global anti-Semitism. And of course, we accomplish that goal by producing award-winning documentary films and television programs. We're going to talk about that later on in the program, to use as educational tools, because we live in a media-driven culture. And our children are also media driven. So how are we going to reach them? A lot of people don't read books anymore. So we create award-winning content to educate not just our generation, but our children as well. So here's a quote that I want you to look at. Many of you are probably familiar with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. CARE, as you probably know, was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terrorist fundraising operation in the history of the United States of America. So how in the world did CARE, who let them influence our children's education? Who opened the door? And so that's what we're going to talk about, because I want you to see who CARE is. This is Ibrahim Hooper, who is the national director. And he said, quote, "I wouldn't want to create the impression that I wouldn't like the government of the US to be Islamic at some point in the future. But I'm not going to do anything violent to promote that. I'm going to use education." And that they are. I love how he clarifies, though, to tell us, relax, he's not going to do anything violent. So I guess we can expect that he's not going to be flying planes into any of our buildings. So this is CARE. Okay. There we go. Now, how did we get here? So we all remember 1973, the Yom Kippur War. And of course, the United States, being a friend of Israel, provided whatever was needed to fight that battle. And of course, we know Israel won. And the next year, because of our support of Israel in that war, the OPEC nations decided to turn the stipend, the oil stipend, off. We all remember sitting in lines on odd and even days to get our gas. And so we all had to endure that for a while. But eventually OPEC agreed to turn the stipend back on. However, with one caveat, they wanted access to our children. So the first school, university, to accept curriculum or the Middle East Studies program was Berkeley University in California. And for those of you who follow what's going on in the world, Berkeley is a bastion of anti-Semitic hatred. We've seen over the years. And so it's no surprise that their influence has had an incredible impact on many generations that have graduated from there. We also had, in 1976, the Department of Education came along under President Carter. And of course, that was the first time education was federalized. Before, education had always been on the state level. It was always the state's responsibility to educate its children, not the federal government's. It's unconstitutional, but that's another topic for another day. And also in 1980, we saw that the pro-US sentiment began its decline. In fact, we found documentation in 1982 where the content in the textbooks was starting to slip into the anti-American message. So here's the problem. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And if any of you have been watching what's been going on the last couple of days, Bill Gates wants America to shut down completely economically. And he also wants to introduce the ID 2020. Of course, that would mean that we would all have to take this vaccine for this, to avoid getting this flu, this coronavirus, and he would inject a chip into each one of us. So that should make all of us very uncomfortable. But Bill and Melinda Gates, Bill Gates actually went to Moscow in 2006, and he introduced the concept of Common Core to the members of the United Nations who were there, who were present. And of course, the UN loved the idea. They adopted it as part of their Globalization of Education initiative. And they encouraged all their member states to adopt Common Core. We have had this conversation. We were actually in Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town, South Africa, back in November to launch a chapter of PJTN there. Come to find out, they have the same problem with the same curriculum content. And of course, the Gates Foundation has an office there in Johannesburg as well. So they're deeply planted all over the world. So we know that Common Core has been a problem. For those of you who are not familiar with Common Core, I encourage you to do more research because this Common Core is the reason why we have the propaganda in our children's textbooks, the curriculum. Pearson Publishing, they are the delivery method. Pearson, we're going to learn a little bit more about them later on in the program, but these are all the guys that are working together to undermine our country and our children's future. So what is the outcome? We have found that the federal government intervention only accelerates the fundamental failing of our public schools, and we have seen that over the years. Millions of students nationwide cannot read or do math at grade level. The public education system is failing our nation's students and putting the future of our constitutional republic in jeopardy. President Reagan said freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, he was 100% right. We have to fight for it. We have to contend. We have to make sure that we are teaching those values to our children. So the focal areas that we're going to address this evening are anti-American, anti-West, and anti-Judeo-Christian content that we found, as well as the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and Holocaust revisionism that we found. Also, we're going to talk about the unconstitutional pro-Islamic indoctrination going on. We'll discuss the roadblocks by local school officials and the unconstitutionality of U.S. textbooks, a legal perspective, and then we will discuss the proposed recommendations for next steps. So here's what we found with regards to anti-American, anti-West, and anti-Judeo-Christian, that the false or distorted content in textbooks leads to the following. Number one, students are given an impression that America is not worthy of pride or loyalty. Two, students' understanding of America's position in this world is distorted. And American students' perception of our culture and history is minimized. Here's a textbook. Now we're going to look at several textbooks as we go through this presentation, and you'll see that some of them are in Florida, some are in Tennessee, and some are in Minnesota. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not just Florida, Tennessee, Minnesota. This is nationwide, because this again is a Pearson published textbook. It may have a different cover in your schools, depending on what state you're in, but it basically has the same content. This AP edition is an objectionable social justice handbook in direct contrast to the founding principles of our nation as defined in the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, therefore in violation of our founding American principles, according to this Florida state statute. In this textbook, the author states that treaties on international law are the supreme law of the land. Now, I know that's getting a reaction out of you because it always gets a reaction in every audience that I speak to. It gets a reaction out of me because those of us who were educated properly know there's only one supreme law of the land of the United States of America. That is our Constitution. It's not an international treaty. But again, that's what our children are being told. Here's some more content. Quote, because humans rejected Allah's earlier messengers, Allah sent his final revelation to Muhammad. Final revelation. This quote delegitimizes Christianity and Judaism by turning Jesus and Abraham into Muslims and marginalizing them. Here's what we found with regards to the anti-Semitic revisionism, that it was stereotypic, the Pearson's removal of Judaism as a world religion. The anti-Israel revisionism that we found was the delegitimization of Israel, or BDS, and Israel's refusal to return land. And then, of course, the Holocaust revisionism. No Holocaust, no Israel. And the Holocaust is just one of many genocides. Or if you're a principal in Palm Beach County, for all of you from Palm Beach County that are tuned in tonight, you remember the principal at Spanish River High School who, when asked by a parent, what are we teaching our kids about the Holocaust? He told her, oh, I can't discuss that because that's a political issue and I'm a public figure, basically admitting that other people have different views about what happened. No, we all know what happened. Even General Eisenhower told everybody that was with him when he liberated the concentration camps, document everything you see. Why? Because somebody someday is going to come along and say, this didn't really happen. Who would have thought Spanish River High School in Boca Raton, Florida, Palm Beach County, one of the largest Jewish populations in America? Here's another. This is Pearson textbooks are objectionable in methodology and presentation with regards to anti-Semitic and anti-Israel sentiment and Holocaust revisionism. So I want to just stop for a moment here because you see one of the books on the screen, The Cultural Landscape. That's a Pearson AP edition. And this is the textbook that we found in Williamson County. For those of you who have been following PJTN, you've heard me speak about this, but for those of you who are not familiar, we had a parent, one person, a mother, whose son had been homeschooled through elementary and middle school. It was his first year in high school in Williamson County. And just so you know, Williamson County is one of the top 10 most conservative, Republican, evangelical Christian communities. Wealthiest, one of the top 10 wealthiest counties in the country. And this textbook was being used in our children's classrooms. There was a quote in the book that the mother brought to me. Her son came home questioning who had legitimate rights to the land of Israel. And of course, his mother said, well, what does the Bible say? This is a Christian family. They read their Bible, they study it. He says, no, Mom, I know what the Bible says. He said, tell me the truth. Who really has legitimate rights to the land of Israel? And that's when the mother contacted me. She's a PJTN watchman. She said, you'll never believe what we're teaching our children in our public schools. So yeah, that textbook, Cultural Landscape. And of course, we went after Pearson on that, and Pearson said that they removed it in a later edition. We found it just on a different page. So you have to be aware, you have to pay attention, and you have to follow up with these people. So here is another, this is chapter 6, page 184. The role that Judaism played throughout the centuries as the first monotheistic world religion is minimized and ultimately eliminated as the Judeo-Christian foundation of the US. This learning outcome excludes Judaism as one of the 4 largest world religions, relegating Judaism to the category of other religions. What's wrong with this? And why should Christians be concerned? Because if they can delegitimize Judaism, then Christians, they're going to cut your branch off of that tree too. We both become vulnerable. This is very, very important. This textbook delegitimizes Israel's historic connection to the land of Canaan, the promised land later named Israel. The use of the name Palestine is not historical ignorance, but rather a concerted effort to remove all traces of Jewish ties to the land of Israel. And this is according to the author on page 47. Abraham, the founders of the Hebrews, migrated his family to Palestine. Abraham came out of Ur of the Chaldees, and he took his family to Palestine. Well, back then, it was called Canaan. We all know that Palestine didn't come into the world until the Roman period. This is a couple thousand years before the Roman period. But this is what they're teaching our children. The next one, Moses, upon leaving Egypt, led his people back to Palestine without ever setting foot into the promised land. This is another. When Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, he took them through the desert to Canaan. He did not take them to Palestine because, again, we still haven't reached the Roman period. Here's another. The example below illustrates classic Islamist Holocaust revisionism and suggests that without the Holocaust, there would be no Israel, and therefore the land was taken away from the indigenous people, the Palestinian Arabs. On page 476, quote, as the horrors of the Holocaust were revealed, worldwide support of an independent Jewish homeland increased. On May 14, 1948, Jewish leader David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. Now, what's wrong with this statement? This makes it look, without putting history in its proper context, they never mention what happened 6 months before, on November 29, 1947, when the United Nations voted to partition the land. And Ben-Gurion, of course, announced that Israel was a sovereign state on May 14, 1948. But it makes it look, the way it's phrased in the book, it makes it look like a Jew came in and took the land, fitting the same narrative, the same anti-Semitic tropes that we've seen throughout history. Here's another example. This book is comprised of 3 short novellas as an assignment in compliance with Florida English Language Arts standards on inference for Florida State Reading Assessment. This book is located on, or was located on, the Florida Sea Palms website. It is a tool that teachers can use to teach the subject matter on inference to the students. This book promoted a false narrative to indoctrinate students against Israel, Jews, and Christians, promoting disinformation through fictitious stories using egregiously flawed material. The author of this book, Ileana Badr, happens to be a member of the PLO. You know, the Palestinian or the Palestine Liberation Organization, a terrorist group. She's married to a leader of a terrorist group. But in Florida, this used to be accessible to any teacher who wanted to teach on this standard to make sure they were in compliance with state law. The story in this book is about 3 young men. One of the novellas about 3 young men who wanted to go visit their grandmother, go to the beach, and they had to go through a checkpoint. The whole story was staged, the narrative, on inference, inferring. They didn't say that it was the IDF soldiers who were guarding the checkpoint. But when the boys came up to the checkpoint, one of the boys, in defiance of what his parents told him to say, instead of saying that he was Lebanese, he said that he was Palestinian, and he was immediately shot dead. His body fell into a ditch right there at the checkpoint with a bunch of other dead bodies. This is what we're using to teach our children. In Florida, let's look at some of the pro-Islamist indoctrination. The exposure to a singular pro-Islamic worldview is a result of the following. The writing, production, and selection of textbooks and instructional materials are primarily influenced by American Islamist groups and leaders. A majority of public school textbooks are purchased from outside the US. We're going to talk about that. And the perspective being taught is monolithic. So here is a Minnesota teacher in service training. We wonder what Ilhan Omar came out of? Well, here we are. Islamophobia and Christian privilege, what educators must know. This is by Dr. Mohammed Khalifa. And this is a program that they want adopted in every county in Minnesota. And they will start with this type of in-service training for the teachers. And then the teachers will teach this to the students. So one of the things Dr. Khalifa was doing with his in-service training for these teachers in Minnesota was he wanted them to recognize that Islamophobia is one of the most widespread, rapidly growing, and tolerated types of oppression in school and society today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is inaccurate. It's an inaccurate statement. Why? Because all you have to do is go to the FBI website and look at the group that is most persecuted, and it's on the rise. And who is it? The Jews, of course. But according to Dr. Khalifa, no, it's the Muslims. That's not the problem. Here's another quote. Discuss with your staff how you have been complicit, directly or indirectly, in Islamophobic actions. So here's another training, in-service training. They have to talk about how they've been directly or indirectly Islamophobic, admitting to something that they probably aren't. But because this is required as in-service training, they have to. And then they're gonna have the students talk about it too. This is an attempt to silence all critical examination of Islam in relation to violence and oppression. Here's another. This is embracing Muslim advocacy. This again is part of the in-service training in Minnesota. Discover what causes are important for your local Muslim community. For example, job opportunities, racialized police brutality, fighting against terrorism, resisting a national Muslim ban, or drug abuse. If you look at these items, asking them to single out, to find out what's important and making that the central focus of the classroom experience. This is outrageous that this is going on. Here's another. This is Shabir Mansouri. He's the founder and director of the Institute on Religious and Civic Values, formerly known as the Council on Islamic Education. And he said, I am waging a bloodless revolution promoting world cultures and faiths in America's classrooms. Now, I don't know how many of you speak to educators or editors of curriculum and textbooks who make statements like this. He's waging a bloodless revolution. I guess, we should be concerned about, why would he choose to use such a statement? Like Ibrahim Hooper, he's not going to do anything violent to achieve his goal. This is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. This is not just Minnesota either. This is across the board. Shabir Mansouri is an editor for Pearson Publishers. So as I mentioned, Shabir is the editor of the Multicultural Perspective of Pearson published textbooks in 47 states. 47 states. He is the editor on the religious section, the content for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So let's talk a little bit about Pearson Publishers. Pearson's mission statement is to change the way America thinks. This is what they had on their homepage when we first launched a campaign against Pearson back in 2012. Why would they have this on their page? To change the way America thinks? What's the matter with the way we think and how we educate our children? Pearson Publishers is a British-based textbook publishing company. They're not based in the United States of America. They have an office here, but their headquarters is in the UK. Their shareholders include the governments, Islamist governments of Qatar, Libya, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Now, they're editing They're writing, overseeing our curriculum and our textbooks in the United States, and these are their shareholders. I don't think these shareholders care about America the way we care about America. And I'm sure their view of America is not the same that we have. Pearson owns 80% of the textbook companies in the United States of America, and they are constantly buying smaller textbook publishing companies, and they never change the name because they don't want anyone to figure out that they have a monopoly on our children's education. That should make all of us sleep better. Are you wanting to homeschool now? For those of you that have your kids at home, pull them out of the public school system. Pearson is also the driving force behind Common Core. And if you are in the state of Florida, thank God, the governor, Ron DeSantis, removed Common Core, established Florida's best standards, and fortunately, PJTN is assisting with reviewing content, specifically the civics content now, to replace what was there. We made recommendations already for the middle school civics textbooks. Our team is now looking at the high school civics textbooks, and they have also requested input on the standards for civics. This is a huge coup for us. And Florida is the key. It's the battleground state. If we can turn Florida in this direction, we can have a huge impact across this country, because Florida is one of the top 3 textbook publishing or textbook purchasers in the country. There's Florida, Texas, and California. And if we can have the impact here and change the content, change the curriculum, and start making sure that our children are being properly educated with this content, making sure the standards are in compliance with our values, not some liberal establishment's values, we can change the direction of the country, because other states will also follow the lead of Governor DeSantis. We know that because many states, many parents have brought this issue up about Common Core and are demanding changes to education. So here's Omar Ahmed. He's the co-founder of CARE. He said Islam isn't in America to be equal to any other faiths, but to become dominant. The Quran should be the highest authority in America, and Islam the only accepted religion on earth. That's his quote, not mine. So here, let's talk about some of the roadblocks that we experienced as we were moving through this process. Because when you start pushing the establishment in your local school district, your school board, you are going to be met with resistance. The school board is not going to be open. You may find 1 or 2 school board members who agree with you, but they are outnumbered. And we saw this even in Williamson County. But we didn't stop. But the local school superintendents and school boards were blocking tax-paying citizens' attempts to expose the K-12 content in textbooks pertaining to flawed and erroneous information about Judaism, Israel, the Arab-Israeli conflict, America, and Christianity, as well as inaccuracies and biases in information about Islam, Islamism, Islamists, and their worldwide influence. We published last year a white paper on the indoctrination and the propaganda, and we invited Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, who is a Muslim, and he is an Islamic reformist. He's trying to reform Islam, and he wrote the section about this issue, about the Islamic content and how the content in the textbooks was whitewashed, that they weren't giving an accurate perspective of Islamism. So even Muslims who are moderate, who want to live at peace, they agree that the content is not factual. The inaccuracies that we found with this content is very troubling. In fact, it was when we brought this content, not just the Islamist content, but the anti-Semitic, anti-Judeo content to Governor DeSantis, who was then congressman, DeSantis, when I showed him what was in the textbooks, he said then that he was running for governor, and if he won, he was getting rid of Common Core and he was getting rid of these textbooks. By golly, he's on his way. Here's some other examples. An unexpected and growing resistance. The majority of the local school officials have been indifferent, dishonest, uncooperative, and totally unresponsive to parents and tax-paying constituents. This is not just a parent's problem. Our tax dollars are going to fund this garbage. We have a vested interest in what is being taught to our children in the school down the street. We are responsible. And if we, as every generation of Americans, our responsibility is to hand over this constitutional republic baton to the next generation. And we do that through education. But if we're not paying attention to the investment that we're making with our tax dollars, shame on us. That has to change. We can't just think that, oh, I voted for this person, I know they're gonna do the right thing. No, you have to stay on top of them, trust me. In Newton, Massachusetts, over 400 citizens held a rally in front of the school and administration building demanding objectionable content be removed from their public schools. Of course, they're still fighting that battle because of the resistance of the school board. It's outrageous what they've been experiencing. In San Diego, we had parents in the San Diego Unified School District filed a lawsuit against the school district demanding that the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, a Muslim Brotherhood front group, remove the anti-Islamophobia initiative aimed at favoring Muslim students and their families at the expense of their counterparts. Here's some anti-Islamophobia bullying initiative. This is more information about this. In March of 2019, the Freedom of Conscience Defense Fund reached an unprecedented settlement agreement with the San Diego Unified School District to resolve its federal lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the district's anti-Islamophobia initiative. The school adopted the initiative in response to the false claims by CARE that President Trump's election triggered an outbreak of anti-Muslim bullying. These parents, there were 5 parents who were plaintiffs in this lawsuit. They sued the school district, and a federal court judge ruled in their favor that they were right, that the content being taught to the kids crossed the line and it was unconstitutional. They were forced to have to remove the content, all because somebody spoke up. We're going to talk about the legal perspective, the unconstitutionality of U.S. textbooks. The Establishment Clause of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution holds that a practice which touches upon religion must not advance or inhibit religion in its principal or primary effect. In order for a religious activity in a government forum to be in compliance with the Establishment Clause, the activity must meet the following. It must have a secular purpose. Its primary effect must neither advance nor inhibit religion, and it must not entangle the government excessively with religion. Adolf Hitler said, "Let me control the textbooks, and I will control the state." Ladies and gentlemen, that statement is so true, even today. So we're going to talk about proposed next steps, how we can fight this battle. So we're all at home. We're all being sequestered because of this virus. We can't go out and do anything, but we can do a lot on our computers. Number one, we have to educate. That is critical. If we don't, in fact, I had, and I don't have it here, but I'm going to have to go from it from memory. There are ways that we can educate our community, and that is, first we have to start with educating ourselves about the problem. And we start by getting involved in what is being taught, going and learning more. There's lots of videos. You can go to the website. We've got on our store page, we've got historic documentary films that you can watch. I encourage you to go there. There's also, you can go to our PJTN TV on YouTube. We have our own channel. There's plenty of videos to watch with historical information. And then once you gather this information, then you need to go and start looking at the curriculum and textbooks. If you have children at home right now, like I said, now's the time to look into that content, that textbook, and see what is being taught to your children, what type of, and it's very easy. All you have to do is go turn to the section where it deals with the Middle East. That's simple enough. With the different religions. That's an area where you can read through and peruse and see. But just going to those areas, another place that I always go to, I look at the section about the Barbary pirates, because when I graduated from high school in 1980, and when we studied the Barbary pirates, we learned that the Barbary pirates were Mohammedans or Muslims. And of course, we understood, you know, Islam, that was our first battle, is fighting those pirates. And it's why it's how our Marines, our Navy started. We all know the song, the Marine song. So this is the way that we need to be, to educate ourselves, to become informed so that you can articulate this. And then we need to mobilize and activate. We need to talk to our elected officials. We need to talk to our school board members, find out what they think about the content and the curriculum being taught. Once you have examples, you can go to them and say, look, why are we teaching this to our children? And that's what PJTN is here to help you do. We have been mobilizing parents and citizens in school districts across the country. We need to take back local control. We have to organize as a community to take back local control. And I have been, as I said, I've been all over this state and many states, counties, helping parents get organized. We start a chapter, we mobilize the community together, and we work to do the research and then prepare the parents and citizens to go and meet with their elected officials. You know, it reminds me of the story in Nehemiah. Many of you know that story, where Nehemiah was given the authority to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And this is a great illustration, a great example of what we need to do in every school district. But Nehemiah went and assessed the damage around the city of Jerusalem, the walls. And he went to the leaders of districts who were in front of sections of the wall. And then he went to other people who lived in front of other sections of the wall. And he convinced everybody to rebuild their wall. And we know from the text of scripture that they were able to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem in record time. But, ladies and gentlemen, it didn't come without a fight. We know also that they were laying bricks with one hand and they had a sword in the other because they were being attacked for what they were attempting to do. We too will be attacked, but our children's future is at stake. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. And either we're going to turn over and allow this to happen, or we as Americans, patriots, are going to take back control of our communities. It is a grassroots effort, bottom up. We know many people are involved. This is an election year. We should know where our elected officials stand on these issues. If we don't, we need to have a conversation with them. You can easily send them an email and ask them what they think about what's happening with education, because we are undermining our country. Many of you have experienced, your own children have come home from the public schools or colleges, and I keep hearing people talk about the colleges and the universities that my kid came home and he's a different person, or she's a different person. No, it started way before that. If we're going to turn this nation back, it's going to take all of us working together, one county at a time. It's like a section of the wall. And if we can just rebuild our county, our schools in our neighborhood, then what will happen is one county will connect with another county, and eventually we will take back our states and our nation. So Albert Einstein said the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who stand by and do nothing. We can't afford that luxury, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to just put this up on the screen so you all can see. If you have questions, again, this is going to be the time that we're going to move to Q&A. There's the email address. If you have a question, you want to email me, info@pjtn.org. Of course, you can always get a hold of our office number during business hours. And we always support your, we are grateful for your financial support. We're asking people to sign up to become $20 a month watchmen. And with that, if you sign up to become a donor, $20 a month, we will give you access to our media page. We have an internet protocol platform where all of our award-winning content, our documentaries, and our Focus on Israel shows are placed. It would give you access so that you could watch these films, watch these programs with your children, and have a conversation. That's what we do. We have one night a week where we sit down with the kids, we watch a movie, and then we have a conversation after we watch the film or the program and discuss the content to help our children understand or think through the process. Because, you know, one of the things that we heard about Common Core is that Common Core teaches our children to think critically. It doesn't. It actually undermines our children's ability to think because they are teaching our children what to think. They are not teaching them how to come to a conclusion. They're not presenting all the facts based on history, accurate perspective of history. And because of that, we have the problem that we do. And, you know, as I said when we opened, that we've got our work cut out for us, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a very difficult place in this nation. And we have turned our children over, the future, the next generation, over to our schools and our neighborhoods. And unfortunately, we have undermined our nation. And the only way we're going to be able to right that wrong is if we, those of us who know truth, those of us who are educated accurately, get in this battle to help take this nation back so that our president isn't having to fight the battle by himself. So let's go ahead and Hannah, I'm gonna go ahead and—
Hey, Laurie, can you go to the screen right before that so that I can say one extra thing to everyone?
Yeah.
So we do have a special for people who are on our call tonight, and it is our 3 DVDs, our documentaries, our award-winning documentaries. And it's the first one is The Forgotten People, Christianity and the Holocaust. The second one is Israel Indivisible, The Case for the Ancient Homeland. And the third one is Boycott This, and it is about the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. So if you are interested in getting those 3 DVDs that Laurie talked about giving you some historical information as to what we do, what aligns with our mission, and of course, this information that Laurie shared with you this evening. If you don't have those DVDs and you're interested in getting this package, we are offering those 3 DVDs tonight for $50, for a $50 donation. What I would best recommend that you do if you would like this is you're looking at the screen right now to go to our pjtn.org/donate page, and you can make a one-time donation of $50. And when it says, how did you hear about this, you can put the Zoom call, and that will identify, will help me on the administrative side to know that I need to send you those DVDs, okay? And you can actually make mention of that as well, Zoom call, and you could put the DVDs there as well. And that would be a $50 one-time donation. Of course, if you want to become a sustaining member or donor, you can always go back through it again and set up a monthly donation as well. If you don't want to do a monthly donation of $50, you want to just do that one time for the DVD. Okay, I hope that is clear for everybody. And we also have our store there as well, where you can order other materials as well that we sell. Am I leaving anything out, Laurie?
Yeah, no, I just want to reinforce what Hannah said, because those documentaries, The Forgotten People, Christianity and the Holocaust, the content in those documentaries is not being taught to our children. And it's why we produce the films, to show Christians. And now, of course, now it's Jews and Christians who are members of our organization. They order these films and they share it with their children as well and their friends. If we don't have the facts, if we don't have history and the truth about history to communicate, then we can't articulate this information and be able to succeed in winning back this nation. And again, it's why we produced this content, to be a resource. It's a tool that you all can use, even if you have, when we are able to get back together again and have group meetings, Bible studies, church groups. These are great films to sit, a Sunday school group, show the film, have a conversation out of it. We do use the text of scripture to legitimize all of the information or substantiate all the information. The BDS documentary, Boycott This, it is one of the most powerful films exposing the rise of anti-Semitism that we are seeing happening around the globe today, that was birthed in South Africa. So all of this is important content. Again, it is not being taught to our children in the classroom or your grandchildren. So it may be something that maybe you want to buy and purchase to give to the parents of your grandchildren, encourage them to share, or have the grandchildren, when we're able to come back together again, have them come over, watch the film, and talk to them. There's nothing like us sitting down. We're told in the Torah that we're supposed to teach these truths to our children and our children's children throughout their generations. And now we need to do that more than ever before. So Hannah, I'm gonna turn back to you. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. Let me look here and see. And remember, if you have a question, please send it to info@pjtn.org. Okay, so there is a question from someone who was on the call. It says, I have formed an organization here in Santa Barbara called Fair Education. We are currently suing our district over implicit bias training and prevailing. Are you familiar with Sage Publications, Corwin Publishing, and Sarah Miller McCune? If so, what do you know about these entities?
No, I'm not familiar with them. But I would love to get some more information. If they can send a link to the information to the info@pjtn.org and just put in that email, just mention that you're from Santa Barbara. Hannah? Yeah. Just put a little note that you're in Santa Barbara and you were the one who called in on the webinar, and let me look into it. We're actually working, one of the things that we're introducing to the state of Florida is technology. We're collaborating with a company in Israel that has technology that was created for the Bible Museum. And we're working with them and looking at collaborating and providing content, curriculum content to use that technology to introduce to the state of Florida. It would just totally, it would have a huge impact on education and getting our kids learning again with the right information, because that's one of the things we always hear from the school board members is, if you don't like this curriculum, this content, then what are you going to replace it with? Trust me, there's plenty of great content out there. The problem is because Pearson is the monolith, and their price point for every textbook is so much less than the other smaller textbook publishing companies, because the price point for the smaller textbook publishing companies cannot even compete with Pearson because they can sell it at a cheaper price point. But there is content out there, but we as parents need to demand. It's kind of like we're in the situation that we are right now with China. We turn everything over to China because we want everything cheaper. And now look at us. I mean, are we out of our mind that we allowed everything to go over there? The same is true about education. We can't let this happen. We've got to nip this in the bud now.
Okay.
So thank you for sending me that information. Hannah?
Okay, that was Sheridan Rosenberg. So hopefully she's here, if it's a man or a woman, I'm not sure. Sheridan, that's a good name. If you're hearing that, please send a follow-up to Laurie. Okay, so a couple of just comments, like feedback. David Peters is on the call, and he was talking about the Pearson bias, and he wanted to note that Pearson also owns and publishes The Economist, notorious for its anti-Israel bias.
Yeah, the other thing about Pearson is in our medical journals. They're publishing our medical journals. That really scares me that they're publishing that also, because that's our health and well-being. These are for nursing students and doctors. So no, David, thanks for being on the call. We appreciate you being here. But yeah.
I have another comment from David Matthews regarding the Barbary pirates that you mentioned. And David says something to look into. Thomas Jefferson, who was the president at the time of the Barbary Wars, bought a copy of the Quran so that he could learn how Muslims thought, acted, and what motivated them.
Thomas Jefferson and John Adams went before Congress demanding that they stop paying the jizya tax. We were, as a small fledgling country, paying the tax to the Muslims to get our merchant vessels and our merchant marines back, because they were taking them captive. And they went before Congress and said, we can't do this anymore. And that was the impetus to that battle, to finally taking them on and saying no. So when Obama said that Islam has had a huge impact on America, yeah, I guess you could say they did. They helped us form our Navy and our Marines.
And then Ruth Fieldbeck sent you in a note, and she said, thank you very much for presenting your webinar tonight. Our Republican Club thanks you for your integrity and commitment to speaking for us. Will you archive your webinar? It's excellent.
Yes, absolutely. So you'll be able to find this saved on our website. We're going to have a page. It's going to be a media page. It's where all of our media content is going to be. Again, I want to just remind you all that website is going to be a huge resource. We've got information about how to get started in starting a chapter, how to get involved in the textbook battle. We've got information on the page, the K through 12 education page. So there's plenty of resources. And another great resource is to go to our PJTN TV YouTube page. There are tons, hours and hours of programming content to watch to become better informed and educated on these issues. So yes, please use that resource. That's what we're here for. That's why we've done what we've done. It's why we want to help you as a community make this your, like this Republican Club, make this your pet project going into November. Because ladies and gentlemen, we're a nonprofit, I can't endorse candidates, but by golly, we better know when we go to push the button or pull a lever for somebody, we better know where they stand on these issues, because our country, our constitutional republic is holding on by a thread. I would hate to think that where we are right now, we're divided as a nation because of politics. Now we're sitting here facing this coronavirus. God forbid if our enemy try to take advantage of us right now. It would be devastating. We have to fight to take our nation back. This is something that you and I can do in our neighborhoods. It's not too difficult. We've got to care enough to save the country for our posterity. And you know what? Think about all the people who died on foreign battlefields and even ours defending this country. Their blood was shed in foreign soil and our soil. And we don't care. This is the respect that we show them, that we allow our children to be indoctrinated with propaganda. May it never be, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to wake up. This is the new reality, but it's not going to be the new norm. Not if we can help it. It counts on it. It depends on you and I. I've been willing to make this my life, fighting anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism If we don't stop it, they will come after everybody. They start with the Jews, never ends with the Jews. And of course, our enemy, the Islamists, make it very clear to us who their enemy is. The Saturday people and the Sunday people, the pigs and the apes, the great Satan and the little Satan. And what do? We invite them into our classrooms with propaganda and into our government. Care, that's another issue. That'll be another topic. Another question, Hannah? Sorry.
Okay, and I just wanted to also remind everybody, again, if you haven't gotten this information, our YouTube, with all of those resources and videos, if you just go to YouTube and you search for PJTN TV, you can find us, okay? And we're also all over social media, so if you are on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, or you're on Facebook, you can find us at PJTN and share all of our information as well with your social circle.
Hannah, bringing that up because I just want to say one thing before you go on. Hannah, or to the audience, those of you who are on social media, that's where when you have some extra time, if you will go to the website and sign on to our social media platforms there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, if you will sign on and subscribe to our YouTube page, and then when you surf, go, because you'll start, if you like PJTN, follow us, then you're going to get some of the nasty stuff that I see in our social media. I need a bunch of trolls, PJTN trolls, to help me go after these people. Because I'm telling you, they are unrelenting. And we need to target these people, to go after them when they make these horrific statements and challenge them, so that other people who are following us will see what we're doing and what we're saying to fight them. That's our little army. We can leverage the social media platforms just like they do and take back the messaging. So when you have time, I have a couple times during the day where I get on my social media posts and I start going after these people. I would love for you all to join me. Next question, Hannah.
Okay, so let me filter through because they are coming in. Okay. I did get a comment from a woman named Elizabeth, and she just wanted us to take a minute to thank all first responders. Yeah. You know, she's based in New York City, and she just wanted us all to take a moment to thank the first responders.
Yeah, absolutely. Our first responders, our soldiers. You know, we've got, President Trump has got our troops down there in South America. And there's a huge effort going on down there to get rid of the drug cartels. And there's a lot of activity. We do need to be praying for our soldiers. We need to pray for our country, pray for the first responders. Yes, our nurses, our doctors, our emergency workers, the people that are out there on the front line in this battle. So thank you for reminding us, Elizabeth.
Okay. So what can we personally do in the next steps in making a difference?
The most important thing that you can do, next steps, is to start informing yourself, become educated. Go to the website. We have a K-12 page with all kinds of information, articles to see what has been done. Watch order the films, watch these documentaries, watch these television shows, go to the PJTN TV YouTube page. The best way to combat this is by educating ourselves, so that all I have to do is rattle off the information that I've learned to share with my family and friends. If you're on social media is another way to expand our messaging, to educate and inform others around us, and encourage your family and friends to join you. because that is the first step. And once you become informed, once you become educated, then you need to contact your elected officials. You need to reach out to your school board members and find out where they are on these issues. Why are we teaching? Why are we using this type of propaganda? Just like what I showed you, that CPALMS curriculum. CPALMS actually is a Pearson, or not a Pearson, I think they're collaborating with Pearson at the university level, at University of Florida, I think is where CPALMS was headquartered, and it was created, the information was, the curriculum was published, and somehow it was a teacher in Sarasota who recommended this propaganda to the public schools or to CPALMS, and they adopted it, they used it. Who puts terrorist organizations stuff on our children's education pages? So that's the first place to start. And let us know, sign up. Again, get on the, if you're not on the mailing list, if you're new to this, get on the mailing list, sign up, get on the social media, and join us in this battle.
Okay, so we also have, I definitely want to be more active with PJTN. Do you need volunteers?
We always need volunteers. And one of the things that we're doing right now is preparing to review textbooks and curriculum. So if you have time, we all have time now, we would love to hear from you, and we want to connect you with our team that trains. We do training for textbook and curriculum review. If you are interested in helping that way, we would be so grateful, because we don't have enough people. We will train you. We've got a team that can train you, and we'll give you the curriculum or the textbooks or the instructional materials that needs to be reviewed. And then you'll just pull together the information that you found and submit that report back to us. That's how we are able to get to Governor DeSantis and provide him with information, the Department of Education in Florida as well.
Also, any of these things that we're mentioning, if you have any kind of question about anything, if you want to get in touch with someone to do textbook reviewing, just again, email us at info@pjtn.org. And we can respond and put you in touch with that person who will help you get involved with textbook reviewing. Also, if I was reminded of this by our director of our PJTN chapters, that's another way to volunteer for, with PJTN is if you would like to start a chapter in your local area, PJTN chapter, that would further advance our work and our mission. We do have a few PJTN chapter directors actually on this call from different areas. I think Laurie mentioned that we have someone in Western Australia, we have someone in South Africa, and we also have people here in the US. So if you're interested in that, just send us an email at info@pjtn.org, specifically about starting a chapter or getting involved in one, and then we can forward that to our director of chapters for you, okay?
We have supporters all over the world, so they're looking to get engaged, but many of them don't want to be a chapter leader. So if you're a leader and you want to get involved in this battle, we'd love to have you on board. So Hannah, I think we'll take maybe one more question and then we'll call it a night, because I know I've kept you all longer than what I anticipated, but this is what happens when I start sharing this information. People want, excuse me, to know more. We were able, I want to leave you with this before we have the last question. We were able to remove 6 sitting school board members in Williamson County, Tennessee, because they wouldn't remove that textbook. We packed the school board meeting the night they were going to vote. We told them, if you don't get rid of this textbook, we're going to remove you from office. They voted that night in defiance of what the parents asked them. They kept the textbook, and we went to work. 4 months, the community rose up. They found 6 school board members to run for office, and they replaced all 6 that were up for re-election. 6 in one election cycle. It's enough to scare any politician, but it works because we unite as a community to take back the control of our communities, our children's education, to get this nation back on track. So, Hannah, do you have another question? And then we'll call it an evening. And I want to thank you all so much.
Yeah, I can give you one more question, but I did want to give you some feedback here from someone. There's a gentleman named David from Patriots Press. He said he's running for PBC school board, and he thinks that people that follow Laurie should consider doing so wherever they are as well, running for school board. So just wanted to throw that in there. And then the last question, I guess, what is the definition and expectation of the PJTN Watchman?
Really, it's just to create more drones like me. The expectation is to care enough. Our mission is to educate Christians about their biblical responsibility to stand with Israel and the Jewish people against the rise of global anti-Semitism. And if you feel in your heart, pray about it, that this is something that you want to be involved in. There are so many levels that we fight this on. We're just talking about our textbook battle. There is so much else going on at the United Nations. There are so many different aspects. Anti-Semitism shows up in Christianity, in churches. I'm fighting a battle with a pastor right now, an anti-Semite, who is regurgitating anti-Semitic statements as a Christian, supposedly evangelical pastor. So basically what we do is in our community, we look for anti-Semitism. And when we hear about it, we go after the anti-Semite and we expose them. God told Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and he who ignores you, I will utterly destroy. We will not be blessed as a nation. We will not be blessed as a community. We will not be blessed as individuals if we turn our back on Israel and on the Jewish people. We're getting ready for Passover. If we want God's mercy on this nation, and boy, if we ever needed it, we need it now, the whole world. And I find it interesting, the same time that we're watching this rise of this insidious virus, we're also witnessing a rise of this insidious hatred globally. We have the ability to change that, one person at a time. And if you feel called to that, getting involved, volunteering, we want you on our team. We need you on our team. So I hope that answers your question. But I want to thank you all again for joining us tonight. And I just pray God's blessing upon you, upon your family. I pray that because of your interest and your caring about this, that God would bless the work of your hands, and that everything that your name is attached to, your children, your family, your finances, everything that your name is attached to, he would protect. And the reason why I ask that from Almighty God for you is because you love his people and because you're helping to protect the nation of Israel. So God bless you. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you'll join our team, become a watchman, become informed, and help us fight the battle. I need more people in this battle. I'm one person. I can't fight it alone. So God bless you, and thank you all so much for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and for the state of Israel. Be safe, be well, and God willing, we're going to have, if you're not on the mailing list, get on the mailing list, because we're going to start doing more of these webinars. We're going to talk about homeschooling next. So I look forward to having more conversations with all of you next time. God bless you. Thank you.